I'm a park ranger in Yellowstone. We don't rescue everyone. The first time I did not go, a man was screaming for 40 minutes. I know it was 40 minutes because I logged the start time and I logged the end time, and the difference was 40 minutes and 12 seconds, and I sat in the patrol vehicle the entire time with the engine running and my hands on the steering wheel, and I did not move, not because I did not want to, because the protocol said not to, and the protocol was written by people who went the first time and came back wrong, and by people who went the second time and did not come back at all. 40 minutes and 12 seconds. Then silence. I logged the silence and I drove my route, and I did not write anything in the remarks column because the protocol said not to, and the protocol was right about everything else. So I followed it on that too. My name is Owen Marsh. I am 53 years old. I spent 15 years as a paramedic in Billings, Montana before I took this posting. 15 years of going toward the sound. 15 years of the call coming in and the truck moving before you had finished thinking about it, because the going was the reflex and the reflex was the job. I was good at it. I was fast and I was calm under pressure, and I made the right calls in bad situations more often than not, and I am proud of that work in the way that you are proud of work that cost you something real. This job cost me the reflex. That is what the posting does to you. It does not take anything else. It is precise that way. It takes the one thing that made you good at the other job, and it replaces it with something that looks like its opposite from the outside, but is not its opposite from the inside. From the inside, it is the same discipline applied in a different direction. The discipline to act fast became the discipline to stay still. Same muscle, different movement, different. It took me about 4 months to stop feeling the wrongness of it, and another 2 months to understand that the wrongness was not in the protocol. The wrongness was in the gap between who I used to be and what this place needed me to become. I have been at this posting for 11 months. Here is what I know. The zone I cover is in the southeastern interior of Yellowstone, a section of backcountry that runs along a river drainage between two thermal areas. The river is cold and fast year-round, fed by snowmelt from the high country to the east, running through a canyon that the public maps label as a primitive area with no maintained trails and no facilities. The label is accurate. There are no maintained trails in my zone. There are paths. Old ones used regularly, worn into the ground by something that is not hikers, because there have been no hikers here in a documented sense for longer than the label on the map suggests. The paths go where they go, and they are used by what uses them, and my job exists at the intersection of those paths and the boundary where the park's general visitor areas end. I was given my operational protocol on my first day by a man named Briggs, who ran the restricted interior division out of a field office I had to be escorted to, because the access road was not on any navigation system. I tried. Briggs was quiet and specific, and he handed me the protocol document without preamble and told me to read it before dark and to radio him with questions after my first shift. I radioed him after my first shift with 3 questions. He answered 2 of them. The third one, which was about the screaming, he said would answer itself in time. He was right about that. The protocol document has 13 rules. Here is what they say. Rule 1. Your zone covers 14 miles of river drainage divided into 7 segments. Each segment is marked at both ends with a metal post driven into the ground, orange paint, no numbers. You will learn to identify the segments by their terrain. Patrol each segment once per shift in sequence from south to north. Return by vehicle on the service road. Do not patrol north to south. Direction of travel is not optional. The south to north requirement is the first rule, and it is the one that everything else in the protocol depends on. I did not understand why direction mattered until my second month, when I tried to think through what would happen if I walked a segment north to south, and realized I could not finish the thought without arriving at something I was not ready to name. The river runs south to north. The paths in my zone run south to north. Everything in this drainage moves in one direction, and the patrol moves with it, and the protocol was written to ensure the patrol never moves against it. Rule 2. Between the hours of 10 in the evening and 2 in the morning, you will hear sounds from the river and from the terrain adjacent to the river that include but are not limited to human voices, cries for help, sounds of distress, sounds of impact, and sounds suggesting physical struggle. Do not respond to any of these sounds during this window. Do not move toward them. Do not call out. Do not radio dispatch regarding sounds heard during this window. Log the sound, the approximate location within the segment, the duration, and the time. Continue your patrol. That is the rule that the 40-minute scream fell under. That is the rule I have followed on every shift for 11 months. The sounds during that window are not what they present as. I know this not because the protocol says so directly, but because the protocol was written by people who responded, and the responding made things worse in ways that are documented in the restricted interior archive that I was given access to in my third month. I read 3 incident reports from that archive. 3 was enough. I have not read any more. Rule 3. The river has 7 pools along the drainage, 1 in each segment, identifiable by the widening of the channel and the reduction in current speed. Each pool must be observed from the bank for 60 seconds during your patrol of that segment. Note the surface condition, any visible disturbance, and the approximate temperature differential between the pool and the surrounding air using the infrared thermometer clipped to your vest. Log all 3 observations for each pool. Do not enter or touch the water. The pools are the secondary space of this posting in the way that a corridor or a cellar is the secondary space of other restricted interior postings. The 60-second observation at each pool is the most technically demanding part of the shift, because what you are looking for is subtle, and what you are logging is specific. And the infrared thermometer gives you a number that you record without interpreting, but that I have spent 11 months developing a relationship with regardless. The temperature differential at a normal river pool at this elevation in this season runs between 2 and 4 degrees. The pool surface slightly warmer than the surrounding night air due to the thermal mass of the water. In 11 months, I have logged differentials outside that range on 31 occasions. Twice the differential was negative, meaning the pool surface was cooler than the surrounding air by a measurable amount, which is thermodynamically unusual. On those 2 nights, the sounds during the 10 to 2 window were the loudest and most sustained I have experienced at this posting. On the night of the 40-minute scream, the pool in that segment read negative 1.3 degrees. I noted it in the log and kept walking. Rule 4. Do not attempt to rescue individuals in distress during the 10 to 2 window. Do not attempt to determine whether individuals in distress are real. The determination is not possible within the constraints of safe operation, and the attempt to make it will compromise your patrol and endanger you. After 2 in the morning, standard rescue protocols apply. If you receive a distress call after 2 in the morning and the caller can provide their location within your zone, respond as you would in any rescue scenario. Log the response separately from your patrol log. I have responded to 3 post-2 distress calls in 11 months. All 3 were genuine. 2 were hikers who had entered the zone from adjacent areas without understanding the terrain and become disoriented in the dark. One was a solo backpacker who had taken a fall near the northern terminus of the zone and needed medical assistance. All three were extracted safely. I handled those responses the way I handled responses in 15 years of paramedic work. Fast, calm, methodical. The reflex was still there. I had not lost it. I had just learned when to use it and when to keep it holstered. Rule 5. The service road that runs parallel to the drainage on the eastern ridge must be driven at the beginning and end of each shift. Note any changes to the road surface, any obstructions, and any evidence of vehicle or foot traffic. The road is not accessible to the public. Any traffic you observe is not public traffic. Report vehicle evidence to dispatch at the next scheduled check. Do not stop on the road between segments 3 and 4 after midnight. The segment 3 to 4 stretch of the road passes through a section of the ridge where the dead timber presses close on both sides and the road drops into a shallow depression before climbing back to the ridge level. I have driven that stretch hundreds of times. During daylight, it is unremarkable. After midnight, the 2 times I have been on that stretch of road past 12 were both in the first month before I had fully internalized the rule, and both times my headlights picked up something on the road ahead that resolved into nothing by the time I reached the spot. I drive around that section after midnight now, adding 8 minutes to my route, using a fire access track that bypasses the depression entirely. The protocol does not specify the bypass, but it does not prohibit it. I follow the spirit of the rule. Rule 6. Radio checks occur at 9 in the evening, midnight, and 4 in the morning on Channel 7. The daily code phrase is broadcast at 8:30 each evening. If dispatch does not use the current phrase during any check, respond with your location only and nothing else. Do not confirm or deny the check. Switch to Channel 2 and wait. If Channel 2 produces no contact within 15 minutes, continue your shift without radio contact and report the anomaly in person to the field office at shift end. The code phrases at this posting have a different quality from other postings I have read about. They are not geographical names or neutral 2-word combinations. They are specific and slightly odd. Pale water, dry bone, still ground. Someone chose these phrases deliberately. The quality they share is stillness. Each one describes something that is not moving. I do not know if that is intentional. I follow the protocol regardless. Pale water, dry bone, still ground. I have confirmed each one when it came and challenged the radio twice when the phrase was wrong, and both times Channel 2 gave me the right phrase in a different voice, and I went back to my patrol. Rule 7. If you see a person standing in the river during your pool observations, do not call out to them. Note the location, the segment number, the time, and a physical description. Complete your 60-second pool observation as normal. Do not cut the observation short because of the person. When the 60 seconds is complete, move to the next segment. Do not look back at the pool. Report the sighting at the next scheduled radio check. Dispatch will advise. I have seen a person standing in the river on 4 occasions. All 4 were during the 10 to 2 window. All 4 were noted and reported. Dispatch responded to each report with the same 2 words. Acknowledged. Continue. On the 4th occasion, I asked dispatch whether the person in the river was one of the sounds I was not supposed to respond to, manifesting differently. There was a pause. Then the dispatcher said, "Log it the same way and keep moving." That was the complete answer. I logged it the same way and kept moving. Rule 8. The zone has one structure within it, a stone enclosure approximately 8 feet square with no roof, located in segment 5 near the eastern bank of the river. It predates the park. Do not enter the enclosure. do not shine your light into the enclosure. During your patrol of Segment 5, note whether the enclosure is intact and whether anything is visible on the ground within it from a distance of 30 feet. Note only what is visible without illumination. If anything is inside the enclosure that was not there on the previous patrol, note the description and dimensions and do not approach closer than 30 feet. The stone enclosure is the oldest thing in my zone. I looked up the geological survey of the area in my second month and found a single reference to a stone structure of uncertain origin in the drainage. The survey noted it and moved on. In 11 months, I have found objects inside the enclosure on 9 occasions. Twice the objects were organic material I could not identify from 30 feet in low light. 3 times, flat stones had been arranged inside in patterns I noted in the log as geometric without using any more specific description. Once there was a sound coming from the enclosure that I also noted in the log and then did not think about for several days, because thinking about it was not useful. Rule 9. If at any point during your shift you feel that the zone has become oriented toward you in a way that your previous shifts have not prepared you for, pull the patrol vehicle to the side of the service road and turn off the engine and the lights. Sit in silence for 5 minutes. Recite the current code phrase 20 times. Then restart the engine and resume patrol. Do not exit the vehicle during this procedure. The oriented toward you language is the most unusual phrasing in the protocol document. I read it on my first day and did not know what it meant. After 4 months, I knew exactly what it meant. It is the feeling of the zone's attention narrowing to a point that includes you specifically. Not threatening, not aggressive. Just focused in a way that normal terrain is not focused on a person moving through it. On the nights it happens, the most reliable description I have is that the zone knows I am there in a way that is different from the way it knows I am there on ordinary nights. I have used the vehicle silence protocol 9 times. The 20 repetitions of the code phrase resolve the feeling every time. By the 20th repetition, the zone's attention has broadened again, and I am just a person driving a service road in the dark. Rule 10. At the end of each shift, before leaving the zone at the southern terminus, stop the vehicle and step out. Face north up the drainage for 60 seconds. You will not see anything. The 60 seconds is not for observation. When the time is complete, get back in the vehicle and leave. Do not look back at the drainage through the vehicle windows as you drive away. I do the 60 seconds at the southern terminus at the end of every shift. I face north, and I stand in the dark, and I wait. On most nights, it feels like the end of a long walk, a formal closing, a way of telling the drainage that the patrol is complete and the night is done. On some nights, it feels like something is looking back from the north end of the drainage over 14 miles of river and path and cold pool water, and seeing me standing there and acknowledging what it sees. I hold the 60 seconds on those nights, the same as any other. Then I get in the vehicle and I drive south. And I do not look back through the windows. On my 22nd shift, I found the First Amendment. It was folded inside the protocol document itself, between the last rule and the back cover, pressed flat enough that I had not noticed it on my initial read. It said, "The sounds during the 10 to 2 window are produced by the zone as a function of its activity during that period. They are not produced by entities intending to lure you. The zone does not have intentions in the way you understand intentions. What it has is processes. One of its processes during the active window produces sounds that resemble human distress as a byproduct. The resemblance is a consequence of the process, not the purpose of it. You are not being tested. You are being asked to understand the difference between a sound that means something and a sound that resembles something that means something. That difference is the entire job. I read that amendment and I thought about the 40-minute scream, and I thought about whether the distinction it described made the 40 minutes easier to sit with. It did not make it easier, but it made it more precise. I was not failing to help someone. I was correctly identifying a sound that resembled help being needed, but was not help being needed. I was doing the job accurately. That is what I hold on to when the window opens and the sounds start. Accuracy. Precision. The same qualities that made me a good paramedic applied to the hardest possible version of the question a paramedic can face. Is this real? For 40 minutes and 12 seconds that August night, the answer was no. I held the answer and I held the wheel and I let the clock run and I logged the silence when it came and I drove my route. The second amendment came on my 63rd shift in an envelope tucked under the seat of the patrol vehicle. It said, "The pools are not just water. They are the points in the drainage where the zone's surface activity connects with whatever runs beneath it. The temperature differential you measure is not a thermal reading. It is a depth reading. The greater the differential, the closer the surface and the deep are to each other at that location. Negative differentials mean they have briefly merged. On those nights, the 10 to 2 window will be loudest. This is not a warning. It is a calibration guide. Your logs are providing data that is used to track the frequency of merges. You are not just patrolling, you are instrumenting." I have thought about that word, instrumenting. I spent 15 years as a paramedic measuring vital signs and making assessments and transmitting information to people who used it to make decisions. This is the same work in a different landscape. I am measuring the zone's vital signs and transmitting them through my logs to people who know what to do with the data. Briggs told me in my 3rd month, during one of his infrequent check-in calls, that the data from this posting was among the most consistent and detailed in the restricted interior network. He said the pool temperature logs in particular were providing information that had not been available before. I asked him what the information was telling them. He said, "It is telling us how deep it goes." Then he changed the subject. I did not ask again. How deep it goes is not information that changes what I do on a given night. I measure the pools and I log the differentials and I sit with the silence during the active window and I face north at the southern terminus when the shift is done. I have 2 months left at this posting. I will walk every remaining circuit with the same accuracy I have brought to every circuit before. The sounds will come during the window and I will log them and keep moving. The pools will give me their numbers and I will write the numbers down. The zone will orient toward me on the difficult nights and I will park the vehicle and turn off the lights and recite the phrase until it broadens again. And at the end of every shift, I will stand at the southern terminus and face north for 60 seconds and acknowledge the drainage and what runs through it and under it, and I will get back in the vehicle and I will drive away. We do not rescue everyone. We do not rescue everyone because everyone is not always what it sounds like out here between 10 and 2. Knowing the difference is the hardest thing this job asks of you. I know the difference now. That is what 11 months costs and what it gives back. Know the difference. Log the silence. Drive your route.